Hey everyone. For this project, we're going to be looking at the next kind of level of using select tools, what's a little bit more advanced. So I have pulled up a picture of a model, and I specifically chose this model because of her hair around the edges. If you think about how you would be using any of your select tools for this, you quickly run into some problems, right? Like we couldn't use we couldn't really use this tool if we wanted to change the colors, the ellipse select, because then we're getting all that background in with the hair. You can tell that if you were trying to start by create a layer mask, for example, it would still be really challenging because of all these different little strands of hair. Um, the lasso and polygonal magnetic lasso, those would just not have enough to grab onto. And we'll also note that using our object select tool, it won't do a great job of differentiating from that hair and the background either. So what we're going to look into is the next level of the select tools. Yesterday we practiced with the magic wand. So to give us that visual of how that would work for here, of course, it's selecting, I have my tolerance at 30. So it's selecting a small amount of pixels that are nearby that color. Even if I turn it fairly, fairly high, it's still just not working well for me. And so the thing that you're going to do when you can't really come to a conclusion with using any of the other select tools that we've talked about, you're going to want to use the Refine Edge tool. And this is like the smartest tool that Photopea and Photoshop have to offer, but they just need a little bit of your own guidance to figure out how it'll work. So under any of my select tools, I do have that Refine Edge option going on. I like to just keep it under Magic Wand while I'm working with it though. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a duplicate layer as my first step, always my first step before I get into changing any of the colors, because that'll be our goal for this. So I'm going to go ahead and go to layer, duplicate layer, or you can right click. There is an option that I'm going to show you when you're finished refining the edge on how that'll work. It can make a new layer for you or a mask at that point in time, but just in case we miss that one step, it's hard to go back at that point. So making a new layer first will save you, it'll be a little insurance for you, okay? So I go to Refine Edge, and I'm gonna notice that there is just absolutely nothing selected over here. You can think about this as a layer mask. So for example, when I have white selected, it's gonna show. When I have black selected, it's gonna hide, and it works that same exact way. You could also customize how the background looks depending on if I had an image that had like a dark background here and I wanted to see how the hair would show up later on a dark background. It may be more helpful for me to have that set up as my background. And it can be helpful to toggle through it from time to time as well. So the thing that you want to start off with when you are using the Refine Edge tool is you want to start off with gray. The difference between gray in your layer masks, as we made our layer masks and we turned our opacity down and we were modifying those settings, we would find that gray kind of shows like a transparent view of a certain layer. But in Refine Edge, gray will be where it says, I need to put in a lot of work here and figure out what pixels are going to be what. So our step here is going to be to paint the entire outside with some space of her hair gray. Notice that I'm avoiding the face and the clothing a little bit. We'll come back to that later. So I've painted the whole outside of that hair gray, and I'm just touching up those spots on the inside now. And you'll see that it has popped up over here and it's saying, okay, we're going to start to figure this out. Now, I'm going to zoom in, and you can do that by Control Plus, of course, our hotkey, or you can scroll with your mouse wheel or your trackpad. So now I have the gray selected. I'm going to go in and select white on the parts of the hair that there's no background visible through. So you'll notice that now in my little window to the right here, that it's kind of figuring out a lot more about that hair and its properties on its own. Again, I'm avoiding areas that I know that there's some background or some skin or other details visible in. And I suggest you lift up every once in a while rather than doing it all in one go, because then it's easier to Control Z if you make a mistake. So I'm noticing the left side of my hair is like super solid now. The program's done a really good job of figuring that out. My right side just got a lot better as well. I'm using my my hotkeys next to the P to my two brackets to size up my brush quickly and size down as well. You could also be using this over here to change that brush setting. Now, when I look at the face, I see there's this one little bit of hair, and this is what I'm looking for in our projects too. So I'm going to go in, I'll select that with the white, and now I'm going to change over to black. So I'm going to paint everything that I really do not want or need to be in selection. I'm going to paint that black. So the skin, for example, I'm seeing like a little bit of the eye is showing up over here. I'll paint black around it, though there is just some that it may pick up on, and that's just how it'll work for us. We'll be able to go in and adjust that in a mask later on. I'm noticing that it's really hard for me to work up to the left here, so I clicked on the hand and I'm dragging myself up now. And I want to be keeping my eyes on my my panel to the right there, because that's what will really be most impactful in the end. I want to make sure that it's still showing that hair as my primary selection. I don't want it. I don't want it to be like messing up and choosing anything but the hair. So I just keep on glancing back and seeing if I'm making good progress here. If it's looking like it's only hair for the most part. And we're going again. I switched back to black, so that black will hide. And I'm going all around the face. And lastly, I'm noticing the top of the hair is really well figured out, but now the tricky area is like this cloth and shoulder kind of spot. So I go in again with black to hide. And I'm going to use my hand tool to push myself around the page. Black to hide. And I'm noticing that there's still a little bit of shoulder visible in that area on the right side of the screen. So I'm just going in, really trying to hone in as much as I can on getting rid of those details. Okay, this is looking pretty good. There's a little spot of like shoulder down here, a little spot of eyebrow up here. Let's see if I can quickly take care of that for us. All right, eyebrow all set. And I'm using my hand tool to push myself around. All right. So this is as good as we're going to get. And of course, I'll show you in a moment how to get any of those other details that we missed or any extra details taken care of with a layer mask. Now, you'll notice at the right side of the screen, before hitting OK, this is going to be how it selects your work. Now, if you hit new layer, it'll make a new layer that's just this hair. Okay, so it won't have any other details in it. You won't be able to modify it at all because it'll be like as if it copied and pasted just this hair, this selection on the right. It'll automatically probably have new layer selected if you've never used this tool before. So make sure that you change it to raster mask because then you'll be able to edit it. If you leave it as new layer, or if you do selection, there's no easy way to get back to this screen and you're going to have to do all that work over again. So make sure that you change it at this point to raster mask. You can also check out over a white background or over a black background how it's looking. I'm seeing pretty good in either direction. There's a little bit of funkiness up here, but we'll just edit that out in a moment. I hit OK, and now we can see that it has made a raster mask on this layer. If this, for example, were to be or if I weren't to have duplicated this layer before, I would just have to duplicate it now and delete the raster mask on one of those layers in order to see our person. Because when I hide that background, we know it's just that hair now. So I've clicked back onto my layer, and you're going to be changing the color of her hair by going to Image, Adjustments, and hue and saturation will be the way that you can do so. Now, you're also welcome to play with the other tools. For example, vibrance. You could try black and white if you wanted it to be, like if you were just interested in seeing how that would look, or inverting the color. But we're gonna go for a realistic one in this demonstration. So I go to hue, and this is saying that it's basically like its normal is in the middle, but then it'll start adding like rainbow colors as we work our way down the slider. So it goes into green, blue, it'll go into purple, and red before back to normal. So you can see that this is a really kind of easy way to get some cool color into our piece. It's selected literally everything it needs to, and it has not selected anything it doesn't need to. There's a little bit of funkiness, maybe like right around that eye, where I'm seeing the colors bleeding a little bit into the eye or the skin. So I'm gonna take care of that in a moment with the layer mask tool. I'm gonna go ahead and say, I like this like electric blue color. I'll tweak that saturation just a little bit. Lightness is really kind of looking fake if I push it far. So I'll leave it as is now. Now, if we look, again, we see this is our image. So we see that there is a little bit of that like blue funkiness coming in front of her eye. It's kind of making it look like there's some discoloration here. If I delete my layer mask, at this point in time, we would see that, whoops. that whole layer has been turned into this blue. So that layer mask is hiding the fact that the rest of the layer, like her skin and everything, has been modified as well. So inside this layer mask, I'm going to go in. I know that my white is to hide and my black is to show. So I'll take my brush, I'll turn it black to hide. I'm sorry, I think I just said that in reverse when I was just talking, but black, dark hides, white, light shows. So black will hide some of this blueness. I have my opacity down really low from that last time around, but you'll see I'm working with this. I'm like kind of changing the size a little bit to be a little bit more specific. And here we go. So that's looking a little bit healthier there. Now, if you wanted to go back and say, well, what would it look like if the eyelashes were blue? Or what would it look like if the eyebrows were blue too? Well, that's something you can do, of course, by having white or light to show. And I'm also noticing right now that some spots just didn't pick up great, like right here. So I would want to go back to my layer mask. Oops. And I'm kind of bouncing around. I'm using this white to clean up the edges of the face. Or I'm sorry, I'm using black right now to clean up the edges of the face, and I have white as my backup. So I've gone and just switched those colors. White now to override that little bit that it didn't pick up on. I have my opacity down again and my hardness down as well, so that it's not giving me any harsh lines, because those will go against our realistic effects really quickly. So for example, I could go in with a very, very, very tiny brush and be seeing about turning these eyebrows blue. For me, in this effect, I'm thinking, well, it looks a little better zoomed out than it did zoomed in. Zoomed out, it looks more realistic, but zoomed in, it was looking kind of fake because of this like weird blue splotch of the skin. Of course, you could take care of that by going back a second time with your black brush. But basically, the goal of this is for you to get your model with their hair color changed, noticing those spots that didn't work so well. I want you to have those all filled in. So I'm using white to bring those out a little bit more where my program missed it. And for any of those spots, for example, like in the neck here, where it's getting a little bit tricky, we're seeing the background color show through. I'm going in and I'm just taking care of that too. So in the end, you'll get funky hair color model. Your project this week is to get 2 others completed. Now, when you're looking for the pictures, you want to choose one that'll work well with this tool. So choosing one with hair that's like frizzy or standing out, not like a solid shape that you'd be able to select with the lasso tool. You're going to select high quality images by using Google Images, searching tools and size large. Okay, so when you search tools size large, let me give you the visual of that real quick. I've gone to Google Images. Of course, because I am using Google Chrome, it would just appear in my browser, but I'm going to say, let's search for a picture of a golden retriever. I go to tools and I go to size large. This will give us only high quality pictures. So for example, you could even use a picture like this. So not of a model, but of an animal, like a furry animal. because I'm seeing that there's like strands of hair in the tail that would be difficult to select. That would work really well for this too. But of course, something that's very well defined all the way throughout, like this right here, that crispness along the dog would say, well, we could just kind of use the quick selector, the magic wand tool on this. There's no need to go advanced. So that's what you're looking for. You're looking to challenge yourself with the images that you select, okay? Now there's also the, let's try to get back to my photo P. There's also the other tools. Now so we have our hair color changed, but you could be doing something else. For example, you could be turning the dog, if you were to do a dog, you could just turn it black and white after you have it selected and see what that does. I just had my mask selected by accident instead of my layer, so that didn't do anything because it's already black and white. But image, adjustments, black and white. So you're really welcome to see what you can create that's different with your selection versus your background. We'll have the Rubik's Cube, this picture, save and export as a JPEG, and your custom to due this week. Those will be submit as a PDF file that you've created in Microsoft Word, okay? Best of luck, reach out if you have any questions.